For Yakuza's 20th anniversary, I wanted to make a video of going through each game and just rambling about them in general. Whether it's me genuinely glazing a certain aspect or fucking raw dog hating on it, I would just speak on at least one thing from each game. Keep in mind, I really don't have the best memory of each game, so there's a good chance I won't talk about something that you like for a game. We'll go in order of these games because I just like it that way. Also, it's pretty obvious, but I'm just going to mention it. There are a lot of spoilers ahead. Alright, Yakuza 0. This game is such a strong intro to the series because of just the amazing story, the good combat, the hot men, basically everything, bro. Speaking of everything, like, oh my god, the music is amazing in this game. Like, Hidenori Shoji, bro. When you take music theory classes, like, you don't fucking analyze Beethoven or Mozart. You analyze Hidenori Shoji's Yakuza 0 soundtrack. However, not everything is perfect. Majima's character development is well written, but Kiryu doesn't really go through anything. Let's be honest. People say that Kuze taught Kiryu that perseverance and never giving up is what makes a real Yakuza, but let's just be honest. This dude never gave up. This dude immediately fought the Dojima family in Chapter 1. Like, this dude beat ass. This dude basically took a beating from his own dad and was like, nah, bro, I just want to be a Yakuza still. He also gets told not to interfere with Yakuza shit again, and then he just decides to, like, you know, start even more shit with them, even after becoming a civilian. Yakuza 0 and Kiwami is probably my favorite games in terms of combat in the entire series. However, the fact that attack speed is directly correlated to heat is horrible because it feels like you're in molasses in Gears 1 and 2, especially in Kiryu's styles. And then let's talk about what needs to be talked about, right? So, let's see. A game like Ghost of Tsushima, right? For its director's cut, it adds an actual good co-op mode, and it adds an actual DLC to the game. What does this director's cut add? It adds a weird-ass multiplayer mode, even though I guarantee you, most Yakuza players that want a multiplayer mode want it to be story-based. But for some reason, RGG thought, oh, let's just make this weird-ass multiplayer mode that's not even good. Like, a modder made a working co-op mod, and it seems way more fun than the official mode. Director's Cut also adds really unnecessary cutscenes. I feel like the two most criticized ones are Lee's retcon death and Majima basically saying, yo, I'm gonna go out of my way to fix her watch, which kind of like, you know, takes away the original scene of the fixed watch. It's just less special. And then for some fucking reason, Director's Cut is 90 gigabytes compared to the original's 25 gigs. Director's Cut is also, for some reason, $50, but I can upgrade my normal Yakuza 0 to Director's Cut for $15 if I have it already. So you're telling me, if I don't have Yakuza 0 at all, I can spend $11 for it, even though Yakuza 0 is normally $5 during sales? Or, I could spend $50 for a 10-year-old game that had the most BS stuff added to it. And why would I even upgrade it for $15 if it triples my fucking game size, adds cutscenes that I can watch on YouTube, and adds the horrible co-op game mode that can easily be replaced by modding the original game? Okay, so pretty much I adjusted my mic. There's going to be some background noise, but it shouldn't be too bad. There will be less cutting out, so yeah. In my opinion, this game has the best iteration of Kiryu's Dragon style. And speaking of Dragon style, the Majima Everywhere system was overall really fun for me. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I just liked it in general because one, it's Majima, and two, it allowed me to practice combat without having to get cracked by someone who one or two shots me, aka Mr. Shakedown. Now, let's talk about the characters. How does the biggest aura farmer in Yakuza 0 get assassinated even though we know for sure that Sarah would play 4D chess against his ops in the Yakuza? And how does it never basically get revealed who Sarah's killer ever is? Now, I'm gonna be honest guys, I really don't care about Haruka, but she's definitely the reason why Kiryu is such a goated character. I feel like the first few games in the series don't really do justice towards Kiryu's character, but Haruka is definitely the first stepping stone in making Kiryu more than just a stoic badass. I'm not gonna lie, I think I forgot like 95% of the plot in this game. I literally took a 6-month break in the middle of this game with my friends, so sorry about that. I'm not the biggest Ryuji Goto fan, but it's honestly definitely because I didn't remember much from the story. However, I feel like the ending of this game is really stupid since the bomb was used as a plot device to say, yo, you guys are gonna die, even though the bomb wasn't even real to begin with. If they really wanted a final fight where Kiryu respected Ryuji enough to give him a normal fight, just give him a damn fight without anyone dying. This series has a great variety of final characters that have a variety of reasoning why they are going up against the main character, but it suffers from the issue of final villains either being completely killed off or just written off from the rest of the series after their respective game. If Dead Souls brought back Ryuji, yes, I know it's a spin-off and they're free to do whatever they want in spin-offs since it won't affect the main games, it means that RGG has thought about bringing back villain characters into important side character roles, or even main character ones. I understand that technically, this is the second story in the series that they wrote, but they didn't also have to write that dumb fake bomb shit at the end of the story. Also, can you make fucking Kiwami 2's soundtrack official? If you can do it with Yakuza 6, then you can do it with this motherfucking game! Alright, let's get the most controversial stuff out of the way because everyone's talking about it. This is gonna be super fast. Kiwami 3 should have not hired Kagawa, bro. Like, RGG has had a history of already replacing actors that have done bad stuff before. So basically, why did they allow this guy to still be a part of the game? The reason why I'm going so fast about this topic is because it's already been talked about a lot, and people have already said the things that I've thought about. Speaking of actors, I never knew why RGG keeps using popular actors for their characters. Like, does it actually genuinely bring the games more attention? I play the games because it's serious as fuck at times, and it's funny as fuck at times. If it were to happen, I don't think I'd ever play a game with, like, Keanu Reeves or Donnie Yen as actors just because they're in the game. Yakuza 3's soundtrack isn't my favorite, especially since things like D2A exists. If you genuinely like DTA or comment that D2A is the best soundtrack in 3, you are genuinely just trying to rage bait. Like, genuinely. But Yakuza 3 has some amazing fucking songs, like Lyricism Without Tears and Fly. Honestly, the thing I'm looking forward to the most in Kiwami 3 is definitely the new soundtrack. If they actually make this game's soundtrack bearable, I'll be happy. Not only that, the only reason I'm saying this is because, generally speaking, RGG has had a good record of making second versions of songs, and I'm most definitely looking forward to spreading my cheeks for the new Fly. Before the Yakuza 3 Glazers say something, the combat in this game was kind of repetitive in my opinion. It's been a few years, so I don't have the best memory, but I think my biggest criticism with the combat in this game is that the blocking is damn near impossible to break. I think my preferred way of cracking the ops in this game was to use grabs, but I remember nearly having to mash my grab button like crazy just to make sure I can even throw them on the ground in the first place. Now, let's talk about Mine. Now, if there's one thing that all Yakuza 3 players can agree with, this dude fucking aura farms. Like, this dude is cool as shit. He's handsome as fuck, he's ripped as fuck, his style's fuck, his voice fucks too, like he's just badass. However, I don't get the unnecessary glaze with him. There are literally so many better villains in the series, and Mine only gets explored during his final chapter. Mine could have been one of the best villains in this entire series if the game explored his intentions and insecurities way earlier, since most of us just thought that this guy was just a dick just to be a dick throughout the entire game. Although I literally just said I don't think he deserves the crazy amount of glaze, I still think he's a worthy and good final boss for a game like Yakuza 3. Finally, to end the Yakuza 3 segment, let's talk about Sayama. This is definitely going to be a hot take, but I actually think it was a good idea that she never really returns as the girlfriend or even wife of Kiryu, and here's why. I feel like she wouldn't really do much for the rest of the series because I feel like the role she would do is to make Kiryu care about his family more, but Kiryu's already running an orphanage in the rest of these games. And not only that, I don't think any of the plots in the other games would kind of fit her. Mine's issues were mainly internal inside the Tojo clan. Kiryu in Yakuza 4 doesn't really do much other than just aura farm. The best part of Kiryu in Yakuza 5 is how he changed ever since he was basically forced to leave his orphanage behind. And Yakuza 6 is more about Kiryu's connection to Haruka. 7 wouldn't make sense since Kiryu isn't a main character, and the guidance plus 8 also wouldn't make sense since Kiryu faked his death for multiple years. If anyone genuinely has an idea on how to make Sayama a good character after Kiwami 2, type it in the comments because I'm genuinely interested. I'm not gonna lie, this is going to be the big hot take that makes everyone click off this video. Akiyama is my least favorite character out of the 4. What the heck? Now, the only reason I'm saying this is that this game honestly doesn't really develop, nor does it explore the backstory of Akiyama. Yes, he's a really cool, lazy guy who diffs all his ops, but it feels like he's the most empty character out of everyone. Tanimura in the fight against his father's murderer was at least some sort of material. It's not really kind of fair, but Kiryu does have games worth of backstory. However, Saejima is such a goat in this game. I think my favorite part about Saejima is that he's like a badass just like Kiryu, but in a different sense. Though the two are really similar, I feel like Kiryu is just an unwavering wall of justice, while Saejima is just a softie that is just blunt as fuck. I have really nothing else to say about this game. I think this game's story was just boring as hell, and the main characters just need to start checking the knocked out corpses in the final fights so people stop getting shot randomly. Man, Yakuza 5, this game is so goated but so shit at the same time. It's crazy. Let's talk about the things I like about this game. Kiryu and Shinada's parts in this game are genuinely so good. I loved seeing how this depressed ex-Yakuza orphanage owner was just, you know, living his daily life now that, you know, he doesn't get to see his family anymore. And even though this dude was never Yakuza, I loved watching this ex-baseball pro just get over his shit in past issues. But for some reason, these guys get really goated character arcs in their own chapters, but the other three are just straight up butt cheeks. Hey guys, Saejima was locked behind a prison for half of his chapters in the previous game. He also established a Yakuza family at the end of that game. What should we do here? Let's put him in the prison again. I know that Saejima's whole point in this game is to find out what happened to Majima, and it would be really hard to make Saejima not know what happened to Majima without, you know, throwing him in prison or something else. But I feel like you could twist something to make the prison part actually a great thing to develop Saejima. Hear me out. The whole reason why Saejima went to prison is because he did it for his boss in the previous game. Even though his boss is the reason why Saejima managed to live a decent life before prison, Saejima and even his boss's life was ruined due to the Yakuza's competition against each other. Saejima in Yakuza 5 should have focused on him being the first character in the entire series to realize that maybe enslaving your entire life to the Yakuza life hurts pretty much everyone directly. Yes, I know Kiryu left the Yakuza because it hurts him and his family, but let's be honest, Kiryu still cares about the Yakuza because that's the way he was raised. Saejima in this game should have realized that being a Yakuza fucking sucks, like genuinely. Speaking of missed potential, why the fuck is Akiyama's part split in half with Haruka? And why did you pick the character that would get the least amount of character development in this game too, to have that split as well? I know Yakuza at this point wanted to match the amount of characters to the number in the title, but bro, come on! I think people's biggest complaints about long games is that it takes too long to complete, and I guess they don't have the long enough attention span to complete it. But I genuinely feel like most people would be fine with a Yakuza that is long if all of the character arcs were super developed and fun. I think the main issue with Yakuza 5 is that it suffers the main issue of Yakuza 4, where a huge character arc is just done at once, and then you don't really return to it until the end of the game. I know 0 was the game made after 5, but they should have did what Yakuza 0 did, where the characters constantly swap chapters, so everyone's story could flow together and you wouldn't forget the early characters' motives in the beginning of the game. Finally, this Majima boss fight is super goated too, by the way. It's my favorite fight in the entire game. Majima willing to full-on fight Saejima so Haruka doesn't get one-tapped was a goated reason of why this fight even happened in the first place. Not only was this just, you know, a badass fight, it shows that Majima and Saejima are willing to sacrifice themselves for others and have a deep respect for Kiryu. Overall, this game is just pretty half and half for me, as I said. As I said in the beginning, Kiryu and Shinada's arcs are amazing in this game. But Akiyama and Saejima? RGG, why did you have to do them so fucking dirty? Yakuza 6? Okay, sorry about the clap. But anyway, Yakuza 6, definitely my second favorite Kiryu Saga game, from 0 to 6. 0 is obviously number 1, but 6 is honestly very underrated in my opinion. But there's a few things to talk smack about here. First of all, why the fuck does everyone go back to prison in the beginning of this game, bro? This is Saejima's third time in prison, and there's no reason for him to be back in prison again, bro. There really is not. Majima's also back in prison, and Kiryu's also back in prison. Prison is pretty much a plot device to write out certain characters, and so when they finally return, something's new. Like, what the fuck, bro? Also, technically, this part should have been brought up in Kiwami too, but 6 is technically the first Dragon Engine game made, so I'm gonna talk about it here so I don't over-repeat myself. Why the fuck does it feel like I'm controlling a tank instead of like an actual human in 6, Kiwami 2, and the first Judgment game? Like, genuinely. Why is the movement so fucking ass in these 3 games? There is so much general, like, fucking inertia when you start moving. It's just so bad. If you don't know what I mean, it's like, I don't know, the best thing I can compare it to is like GTA 5. When you move your character in GTA 5, you don't immediately move. It's literally the same feeling in these 3 games. This generally kills like the general movement in this game and how it feels to traverse around the map, because it literally feels like I'm fucking drunk and I'm bumping into every little fucking thing when I'm inside of like a tight corridor or something. And also, I'm sorry, did I accidentally boot up a source game? Because the only notable thing about the combat in this Dragon Engine game is the fucking ragdolls! There's worse movement, a worse fighting style, and there's worse heat mechanics in this entire game, bro. Also, I know Yuta and Nagamo are the star side characters in this game, since they are the ones who have popular actors as the face model. But like, why do we leave the other 2 out? I feel like we could have connected more with the Hirose family if we got to connect with the other 2 more as well. Alright, I'm done being a negative Nancy, sorry for clapping again. My favorite thing about this game has to be Sameo, bro. This dude is such a goated character, bro. The final fight against him is what I enjoy so much about this character. Despite first being introduced as just like a jackass and a Yakuza who doesn't care about tradition, he ended up more Yakuza than the final boss. This dude was forced to fight Kiryu to the death, despite obviously knowing that Kiryu would win to save his ex-wife's life. This is basically just Hydrogen Bomb versus Coughing Baby, but Sameo has that aura, he just kept on going. When he was defeated though, Kiryu refused to kill Sameo despite the ex-wife's life being on the line. Without thinking, bro just stabs himself in an attempt to twist the rules. This dude has fucking aura, as I've said already. I know a lot of people are going to say that Kiryu should have killed Sameo to prove that he's willing to take a life if it means that an innocent life will be saved. But I genuinely feel like Sameo is so memorable in this game because he literally just killed himself in an attempt to save his ex-wife. I'm not gonna lie, there are a lot of enemies that you fight in the series that do respect Kiryu, but not many of them get scenes like Sameo. You guys might know, but I've just been recording, the background footage of these videos with my own gameplay, and basically this is my reaction to the Yakuza 6 footage that I recorded a few years ago, by the way.
Oh shit, that's like a 6 or 7.
What? 6, 7! Okay guys, I have to be really quiet because it's nighttime and most of my family's sleeping, so I can't yell like I did in the Yakuza 6 portion. Plus it's probably better anyway, because in Yakuza 6 I was just yelling like crazy. So anyway, I feel like Judgment is the first game to start the trope of RPG games, where 2 similar games are like the exact opposite of each other, if that makes sense. Like the first game has worse gameplay but better story, while the second game has better gameplay but worse story. Now, in Judgment's case, yeah, I think Judgment's story is better than Lost Judgment's, but Lost Judgment's story is not that bad. But if I had to be honest, Judgment's combat is kind of butt cheeks because of the movement thing that I talked about in the Yakuza 6 section, and the fact that one of the styles is pretty much unusable. Like, Crane is just butt cheek, guys. Also, I just wanted to point out that Judgment and Lost Judgment are hard games for me to talk about properly, because I watched playthroughs on the both of them before they were even ported to PC, so I didn't get like the same exact feel, if that makes sense, compared to other games. I feel like Judgment is one of the very few games where every character, including the main character, gets explored to a pretty good depth, and it proves that there are games in the series that can definitely match, if not beat, Yakuza 0's story. Okay, we're back to normal volume. It's okay. So I know this game's called Like a Dragon, but we're just gonna call it 7 since it's much easier. I know a lot of people didn't like Yakuza going into a turn-based approach. In fact, a lot of haters of this approach act like RGG just shot their family dead right in front of them, but I am overall fine with it. It's honestly a nice refresher to how a Yakuza game plays, and it suits Ichiban since Ichiban's story usually focuses more on how he influences others with kindness and companionship rather than strength and wisdom. I feel like this game could be easily cheesed due to the bad balancing of the cast, but it's RGG's first time making a turn-based game, so, I'll let it slide. Near the end of the game, your party will literally consist of just Jungi Han and one of the female characters because of how broken Jungi's MP to damage ratio is and how broken healing and charm debuffs are in this game. Speaking of party, I know how this is supposed to be Yakuza 7, so as usual, the fucking devs are sticking to their guns, and there are technically 7 playable characters in this game. But how does Eri contribute to the story of Yakuza 7 genuinely? Obviously, this is Ichiban's story, but the 5 other characters have at least some sort of involvement with the plot. They could have made a 7th character that could have just had some sort of tie to the story, but they were so damn lazy where they're just like, fuck it, let's just have some random ass businesswoman run the ops down too. I also would like it if the turn-based games require less grinding on the side, so you won't get run down by the enemies in the main story. I think that RGG balances the 2 turn-based games in a series like this because they probably expected that most of their players want to play a decent bit of the side content, and they just want to adjust the main story's difficulty to be a bit harder throughout the game. However, there are people like me who just want to experience mainly the plot and character development of the main story over the side story. Yes, I like the side content of Yakuza games, but it gets so repetitive seeing Mahjong for the 67th time in a row, and seeing the same tropes of side stories just recycled constantly. One thing that I think that this game did basically cook on was that they finally made Dragon Engine movement actually bearable, so genuinely props to them. This game's combat is super fun, and there are days that I think that this game's combat is better than Kiwami. However, as I said in the Judgment section, this is the second game in the Judgment duet, so this game has the worst story. Now don't get me wrong, I don't think that this game's story is even that bad. It's just that I liked Judgment's story more due to it being a lot more intense and the darker tone of the first game overall. This is one of the very few Yakuza games where you get a lot of fights with like a side character, and it's probably the first game in the series that made me wish, damn, this series needs an actual official co-op mode for one of the newer games, because it would honestly be super fun with a friend. And hopefully people made it to this part of the video, but the Majima Saga in Kiwami 2 was just trash. And the reason why I'm talking about it here is just because we can just get it done in one complete section. The Kaito Falls in Lost Judgment is such a good way to make a DLC for a side character to be playable. Yes, the fighting styles are reused, but they're actually fun. They're just fun. Majima's fighting style in his saga in Kiwami 2 was just not fun. Overall, Kaito Falls, super fun to play, and the story was a really good exploration of his character. Like, damn. It's honestly probably the first time in Yakuza history where the ending of a specific story is just pure happiness. Like, nothing bad happens at the end. Okay guys, I'm not gonna lie, I played Ishin right after 6, or at least maybe a year after I finished 6. I went from 0 through 6 in order, but I played Ishin, like this Ishin, after 6. So, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I think I forgot nearly the entire story of this game, and I really don't care about this game, so I have pretty much nothing to say about this game. Scratch that. The weapon fighting styles in this game, they're super fun. It makes me wish that there were more different types of weapon styles in the series, other than Majima's like knife style or Shinada's like bat style. Stuff like that, I think it would just be really fun to play with. The card system in this game is just absolute dog shit, and the optimization in this game is also dog shit. Like, for example, I don't know why there's a big guy, but like, big people, for some reason in Ishin, just take up a lot of like frames and shit. And especially if you use a card, especially like an area of damage card with like a big guy on screen, yeah, GG bro, your frames are just going single digit. I don't know why RGG decided to just go all full Mr. Beast on us in this game and decided to put like celebrities on cards. I really don't like it. I just genuinely don't. The remix of the different soundtracks throughout the entire series is actually pretty good. Especially Collisions of Our Swords, which is playing right now, and Soar. RGG, you need to listen to me closely, okay? I guess I kind of get how, the remade soundtracks in this game are not on Spotify, even though the original game's soundtrack is on Spotify. Well, if it's on Spotify, it means it's technically released. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit salty about the remakes of, like, the songs in this game not being officially released, but why do you gotta tease my dick, bro? Why do you gotta make, like, certain songs in Judgment and Lost Judgment officially released, but the rest of the song's not fucking released, bro? RGG, do you just want to play with my balls, bro? Yokoyama, do you just want to fuck me? I feel like as time has gone on, people just started hating this game for no reason. Like, a lot of die-hard haters of this game, they act like this game just took their girlfriend and just fucked her right in front of them. I think the game was honestly just super fun, but it was mainly towards the end. Now, is it $50 fun? No, absolutely not. But you should genuinely get this game on sale if you like the series. This game is just really good. I really don't like it when Yakuza games use an arena or coliseum in like the main story, because these fights tend to just spam a lot of enemies at once, and these enemies tend to just be like jobbers instead of just actually good people to fight against. However, this game has my favorite final boss in the entire series because it just flips the script. Kiryu, throughout the entire series, returns back to the Yakuza to make sure that the big bad doesn't destroy the clan and its legacy. He protects the Tojo clan throughout the entire series because it's a responsibility in the sense that he left his closest friends to uphold the image of the Yakuza. And it's literally like what he said in Yakuza 4. It's basically the only living proof that they've ever walked on this earth. However, with the anti-Yakuza laws in place, and in general, how much shit goes down in any Yakuza clan in the past century, it's honestly a good idea to just wrap up the Yakuza. The time frame from Yakuza 0 to this Gaiden was pretty much 40 years. And keep in mind, the Yakuza series doesn't cover all of those 40 years. It takes a span of those 40 years. I just checked the wiki, right? I thought that the Tojo clan was 100 years old. It doesn't actually have a specified date on how old it is. And keep in mind, the oldest chairman that we've seen in this game was in Yakuza 0, and it was an old man. So who knows how old the Tojo clan really is. The point I'm trying to make is that the Tojo clan and other Yakuza clans in the series have just been ops to like the normal civilian population for an extremely long time. You could basically say that they were dragging the Yakuza clans like a low taper fade, bro. Shishido wants the Yakuza to keep going because to him and many others, they think it's the only way of life, and if the clans disband, there's no point in living. Which is a perfect fold to young Kiryu. Overall, it's a super goated final boss fight. I honestly just wish it was 3 phases in terms of music though. And they honestly fucked up Agent Styles balancing. Like, it's honestly a really cool style, but it's just not good. It doesn't do enough damage. The Yakuza style literally just does everything better. This is honestly a really fun turn-based game, and it's balanced so much better than 7, since Jungi doesn't literally fucking one-shot everything, and every character actually has a reason to be played. Speaking of Jungi, why is this dude introduced in the second to last chapter in the game? Not only that, I feel like Sonhee, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, I don't know the English pronunciation of her name. She was such a random character to add to the party. Like, don't get me wrong, she is definitely mommy, and she's a way better character than Eri since she's the leader of an actual gang in the game. But like I said before, RGG loves making the amount of playable characters match the game's number. Well, there's technically 10 playable characters in this game, but Ichiban and Kiryu are the protagonists, so, you know, it means there's 8 side characters. But what I mean by this is, why is Sonhee added when there's 2 new characters for Ichiban's side of the story? It just feels like they just didn't have any other character and just slapped her in. For some reason, people really hate this game's story, and they basically act like it has Yakuza 4 levels of writing. I should honestly do more research to see why they think this way. I don't hate the story, but it's just not my favorite either. Like, I don't full on hate it. In a way, Yakuza 7 is like a nice meal at like a fancy restaurant. You start off with your drink, mainly water, who's like Ichiban. You go through different twists and character arcs, just like how you go through different dishes, like an appetizer, entree, and dessert. Sometimes the start to chapters are super slow, but they usually end on a crazy note. Now, for Yakuza 8, it's just like Halloween. Nearly every part of the story is like a chocolate bar. It's good on its own, but when you put all parts together, it's just like a chocolatey, gooey, sugary, fucking diabetic mess. The different parts of the story don't really tie in together that well, and the pacing apparently also ate some of that candy because that shit is rushed like crazy. However, my biggest gripe in this game are the final villains. I agree Bryce and Ebina both have ideals that are the perfect opposites of the protagonists, but they were just so underdeveloped. Bryce was just so fucking boring in this game. He was literally just there to ore farm, and there wasn't really any good scenes with him. Not only that, this dude's final theme is so ass. It's honestly sad to say, but I'm genuinely disappointed to say that Yakuza 8 is just like the first Yakuza game where I didn't include a final boss's soundtrack in my Spotify playlist. Usually, Yakuza soundtracks have a really unique feel and tone to them, which makes them super fun to listen to. But Bryce's final boss theme sounds like it could belong to any other piece of media. It's just so boring. The problem with Ebina is that literally the only compelling thing about him is his backstory. It's so cool that for Kiryu's final game, his final boss is someone that had their life ruined by the Yakuza, and Kiryu finally gets to realize, wait, maybe I should have done something when I was chairman. Maybe the Yakuza, even the old school ones like me, still harm society. Yet, Ebina still suffers from Mine syndrome. He only really gets explored near the end of the game and doesn't have a good setup in the earlier parts of the game. Even then, I think people like Mine more just because he has more aura than Ebina. Overall, the RGG trope is still true. Infinite Wealth does have better gameplay than 7, but its story is kinda just like doo-doo butt compared to it. I'm not gonna lie, this game was a huge disappointment, but I do like RGG for trying something new. The combat is fun, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't like the lack of heat actions in this game. I don't like the fact that the heat bar is basically only one heat action. And I don't like it when mechanic heavy games have like a one button press that just annihilates everyone on the screen. I also really did not like the ship battles in this game. They were just super tedious and just annoying to fight in. I feel like RGG wanted to make a more chill Yakuza game that didn't have a super dark main story. But I feel like this game could have had that while also doing more, if that makes sense. I feel like this game could have explored Majima like crazy. 20 years into the series, right? For some reason, we still don't know much about Majima. We still don't know why Majima, considered to be the second most popular character of the series, joined the Yakuza. We don't know shit about his family, or his past, or even how he and Saejima became bros. In the beginning of the game, I thought this game would do some crazy character development for Majima. Majima, even without his memories, realizes that he isn't really a good person, and had a fucked up past prior to washing up on the beach. Yet, this shit was never explored again. Like, GG, bro. I know many Yakuza fans glaze the side content of these games, but I feel like the best Yakuza games have a great blend of serious main story and funny side content. Like, what would you rather have? A game where Majima goes clip farming exclusively, or a game where Majima clip farms, but he goes through an arc where the players get to see things about his past, and he also gets to experience the same amount of character development like he had in Zero. If I was like Yokoyama, if I was the mastermind of creating Pirate Yakuza, here's what I would have done. For people that don't know, when you experience amnesia, you actually still keep some skills, if that makes sense. So say for example, riding a bike. And the reason why that is important is that Majima still knows how to fight in his specific style. And even though Majima doesn't have his memories, the reason why it makes sense that he knows that he's a horrible person is because with the way he fights, he knows that his past self was just fucking crazy. So I would have just kept the same thing as like what RGG did. Throughout the game, right? I want Majima to realize that his pirate lifestyle is just helping a lot of people. He takes down a lot of pirates that are like genuine atrocities to the world, and he helps better the lives of people around him. However, when he meets Saejima, he finally realizes that he used to be a Yakuza. Majima refuses to go back to this life because he still thinks that he was a genuine horrible person before he washed up on that shore, and he thinks he'll live a more beneficial life anyway as a pirate. However, due to Saejima's view of brotherhood, Saejima would be the second most important character in this game, even more than Noah. Saejima would be a lot more present in this game as Majima kept doing his pirate shit, and through dialogue, Saejima would tell Majima more specific things about his Yakuza life. He'll talk about how Majima lost his eye, how Saejima was in prison for over 2 decades, how they reunited, how the Tojo and Omi disbanded, and the fight they had with Kiryu a few months ago talking about how Majima and the other Yakuza members should not run away from their lives. Majima, initially reluctant, eventually regains all of his memory and remembers why he came to Hawaii in the first place, to see if he could even find this special elixir of life and give it to Kiryu, who is currently most likely experiencing his last few days due to cancer. I feel like a game like that would just help the Yakuza series, especially Majima, immensely. Also, the final boss in this game is just so ass. Like, you guys, I don't even like Samoa Joe. Not saying I hate him, but I just don't know who he is. I'm not that, like, into him, if that makes sense. Pause. Not like that, but you know what I mean. But bro, who cares that it's a popular actor as, like, a character in the game? Like, I'm being so genuine. Like, that's That is so dumb. And his theme is just horrible. Okay, maybe it's not like the worst music, but like his theme, as I said in the Yakuza 8 part, it just like this is what Yakuza 0's final boss soundtrack starts off like. Like that is Aura. And this is how this game's final boss theme starts off. So overall, I think RGG just needs to slow down because the quality of their games, like the combat, story, the character development, the music is just overall going down. The final thing I want to add that I didn't initially record in the script is that this game has a horrible like plot moment, if that makes sense. Even worse than the rubber bullets in Yakuza 4. For some reason, it gets briefly mentioned once, but Majima basically tells you, don't worry about the language barrier. Like, are you serious? How the fuck does Majima manage to communicate to all these English speakers fluently? It never gets explained. Like, at least with rubber bullets, like, I guess rubber bullets make sense to some extent. But this just doesn't make sense. There's no, like, translator. Like, bro. Okay, that is pretty much it. This is my first time making a video like this for Yakuza, and I would like to know what you guys thought about this. If you guys want me to make some more content related to Yakuza, let me know, you know? If you want me to do some climax battles and rage at them, something like that, just type it in the comments, you know? Have a good 20th Yakuza anniversary, even though RGG is doing some questionable shit, and let's just all hope that Stranger Than Heaven is a gas game, and let's also hope that Nagoshi's new game is going to be gas too.